All right, so the question today, actually, I made a mistake because it's not really a strategy question when I look at it. It's actually a product design question. And the question is as follows. Okay, so let's say that you work for a venture capital firm. The venture capitalists come to you and say, hey, iPhone is coming with these chemical sensors that are putting on their phone. What do you think? What would you build? Given this information, what would you build and why? So let me put it here. Let me just write it down. Okay. So what to build if you have, could be an iPhone or whatever smartphone, right? iPhone with chemical sensors. And so what I wanted to do today is get a lot of participation from you guys. These questions are like, there's no right answer, but there's definitely a right way of structuring product design questions. So I think we need to focus on that. And it would be great to get from you, tell me what you think the interviewer wants to hear.
Well, first thing we need to focus on who the user, what is the goal of the sensor product, right? And built upon that, and then figure out who the users are, the target users are. So first start off with the goal, and then later on find who the target segment is. Maybe there are multiple ones, and we need to settle upon one customer's or market segment to target.
Sounds good. Now, questions are really asked broadly on purpose, right? Because they want to see if you can actually ask the presence to actually ask clarifying questions, because somebody that makes assumptions doesn't ask them, right? And that's a no-no usually for these product management interviews. So I would say, like, the first thing is this is very, very broad, right? There are all kinds of chemical sensors. Actually, I don't know much about chemical sensors, right? So I think that what I would do is to ask first, clarifying questions. And then, as Sim said, we'll go through the goal of what we should build and the users, and then build, use cases. Talk about solutions for it. So what are the questions that you would ask? But by the way, I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the meat of this product design question that the interviewer wants to really trying to find out if you can get? What do you think is that? Like, what is the viewer testing you on?
First thing, can you think on your feet?
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, this is very vague, this is very ambiguous. Can you cut through the ambiguity and find, as we go through the clarifying questions and the goals, can you find what exactly what's the kernel of truth that if we get that, then this would be a successful product?
I think this is probably about, so in product lingo, we use the term inception to launch. So not exactly launch, but I guess there is a vague idea that there is some capability that's out there. How do you take that capability and bring it to market in a way that it's meaningful to the potential users, and obviously it creates value for the business? You mentioned that it's a venture capitalist who came up with this proposal. So there's obviously the business aspect of it, right? There's probably some investment. They're looking to get some returns on it, so that there's got to be some business value that needs to get generated out of this. So how do we take an idea and bring it to market in the form of a product and create value alongside?
So can you take idea, bring it to market? Okay, very good. Anything else?
I like Shipra's answer.
They
Oh,
would
sorry.
also
you go
want to
ahead.
know. I think they would also want to know if we are focusing on the right market and if that market is growing.
Mm-hmm. Market opportunity. Okay. All right, and I'm going to throw in one more here, which I think it's actually one of the most important parts, which is they are looking for creativity. So when you go and design something with these chemical sensors, they're going to try to see whether you can put yourself in the shoes of whoever is going to be your target users and think of different use case scenarios and then come up with creative solutions. And I think that's the winner of this. Whoever comes up with the most creative use cases and solutions, I think can nail down this question. And that's why this is so hard, because it's really under pressure. So how can you think creatively under pressure? Of course, structure is a given. You have to be structured, right? But they're really looking for that creativity. Okay, so I'm going to put here creative. All right. So let's start with questions, clarifying questions. What would you guys ask?
What kind of sensor it is, because chemical sensors can be different kinds of chemical sensors.
Type of sensor, I would say, what does it detect, right?
Yes.
Okay. Another question?
Well, so that's on the sensor side. If they have a market in mind that this sensor solution needs to address, is it because we are talking about chemical sensors? They can be industrial, or they can even be applied at residential or business settings. So there are 3 different segments that are coming right off the top of my head where they can go. So what is the target segment that they have in mind?
And I think that what happens is that when you ask this question, the answer is going to be, you tell me. That's why I'm asking you. That's where the market opportunity analysis comes.
Got
right?
it.
But I would definitely ask that, right?
Yeah, if they put it back to us, then it makes our job easier, because then we decide. Or
actually, it's better when they narrow it down, actually.
Okay.
Because you only have limited amount of time.
Got it.
And so under this time pressure, it's better if the scope is really narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think one thing that I would clarify is that is the product the chemical sensor, or is it the iPhone with the chemical sensor?
So my interpretation is that because they ask, right, they leave it up to you to decide what to build, right? And it could be an app, or additional hardware that you put that interfaces with the sensors. And obviously there has to be some kind of application, right? Otherwise it doesn't make any sense to put it on the iPhone. But I think that's part of the question, right? Maybe one clarifying question would be, are we thinking of using the internal sensors or is there something else? I don't know. Do we have constraints in terms of the budget? Do we can I build hardware if I need? Does that make sense?
I guess I would like to get some more clarification around. So it seems like it's a technology that is out there, but what is the technology? What can it do? It says they're chemical sensors. What kind of chemicals can it detect? What is the quantity? Is there somebody I think mentioned industrial scale or residential or small scale? I think all of those determine what kind of use can this technology be put to, right? What form should these chemicals be in, right? Is it pure chemical form, like you don't need hydrogen and oxygen separate, or can it detect chemicals, from materials around us in the world? Right. So I think I feel I need a little bit more clarification around the technology itself and what it can do.
Yeah. So whoever was asked this question, and this was a real question asked in the interview, told that the sensors could, and let's go with this, it was a gauge, gas sensor, okay? That was the only thing they told me. Okay, so gas or air sensor. So that is good because it constrains sort of the type of applications, right, that you can do. So let's say that the answer is this. Okay, so now what? What is the next step that you think you should work on? Now that you have that notion.
Okay. Go ahead. I don't want to take up all the talking point.
It'd be interesting to know the accuracy, if there's specs on that, the accuracy of the sensor.
The accuracy. Okay. So, why are you thinking that, Brian? What was on your mind?
I'm trying to think of out of the box ideas, and it would be good to know. I guess it's more so asking, trying to get as much of the what as possible. So I'm trying to build off of the question, what type of sensor? So asking some clarifying questions there. That's why.
Yeah.
I think to Ryan's point, like the accuracy determines what type of application you can do. Like if it's super fine, then you have a lot more application than like if it's a pretty like rough kind of numbers. Like the accuracy matters.
Give me an example.
So I'm thinking like if it's a like carbon monoxide detector, then if you're just looking at the baseline for toxicity, then a basic home use case will be fine versus in a lab setting where you need a much more precise measuring for like lab application, for example.
Okay, that's very good. Accuracy will tell you, either for less, for home use or like, consumer use, or for more, precise laboratories type of work. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so, I don't know what they told him, but let's imagine that I go and say, hey, you know what? It's actually going to be for home use. It's more like a casual use, not super accurate. And you can detect, for example, carbon monoxide, you can detect odors, you can detect certain amount of particles in the air. So let's put that here. Let's put an answer. Okay, so the sensor capability. So detects carbon monoxide. I think CO, the way you put it, CO, carbon monoxide, or CMO?
Yeah, CO is right.
Yeah, CO detects carbon monoxide. It can detect certain particles in the air. You know, like for example, you all experience the fires, right? So maybe it can detect that kind of pollution in the air. Maybe it can detect certain odors. I'm just making this up, and so on. Information. Now, how would you proceed?
So is that the information that's given back to us, or that's our assumption?
No,
on
that's
the
the,
capability?
so obviously I don't know what he was given, right? Because I wasn't there in the interview. But I'm making this up because this is actually what they do, right?
Mhm.
They give very ambiguous answers. But let's suppose that that's what it is. It's a way to detect air particles in the air. Could be pollution, carbon monoxide. You can detect odors. All right. So what's the next step?
Well, next step is identifying the customer segment that this will, these capabilities translate into what the product that we can make. So from the sound of it, the accuracy is not up to the par for lab use. So it's leaning towards the customer segment would be the residential application.
Okay. So
That's
consumer.
one consumer application.
Actually, before we go into that, I'm wondering if I'm not sure if he clarified on the goal, like what exactly is the venture capitalist looking to get?
Good
Is
point.
it a certain number of, certain profit they have in mind? Is it they want to launch this in like 2 years or a year?
Right.
That will be helpful.
Very good. So what do you guys think would be a goal for a venture capitalist? With a iPhone type of application. What is he thinking about? They usually want a lot in return, right? Like right away.
I would actually think if it's a venture capital, they probably want to launch quickly and get, obviously profitability and scale is important, but I would think it's more about the ability to get a product into the market.
Launch quickly. Okay, good. And what else? I mean, launch quickly, of course, with minimum amount of cost. So let's say that this is the goal, to launch quickly.
One more thing might be to build some sort of technological advantage or like a competitive moat, you might say, that keeps the company differentiated from any potential incumbents or competitors that might prop up in the time that you're building. So a very strong technological competitive advantage could be another aspect of the goal.
Some competitive advantage. I mean, I think that's a given, right? You always want, products that have some competitive advantage so that the competition cannot catch with you.
I guess I think of capital as like that.
Clarifying question, maybe slightly side question, but I guess I'm wondering about the relationship between the venture capitalist here and the OEM, the equipment manufacturer itself, right? Since you mentioned iPhone, that's Apple. So is the venture capitalist, are they looking to sell this technology, or what is the arrangement here? And I don't know, maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't matter, but just curious.
Is there a hidden agenda? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in general, Shipra, what they're looking for, they're inventing this question, right? So they're trying to get quickly into the design part,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So probably they're going to answer to you, no, there's no hidden agenda. something like that.
Okay, all right. So not to worry about that aspect, I guess.
I mean, you can ask it, right? But I think that it's probably not going to be something that is in their mind.
Okay.
But it shows that you're thinking about it, so why not, right? Anyway, so I think that the goal is to launch quickly, right? So let's think about what that means, right? So I think it was Saranya that said that. Saranya, what do you think? Because you want to launch quickly, then what kind of guidance does that give you in terms of trade-offs or decisions that you want to make about the product?
Yeah, exactly. So I think if I want to launch quickly, then I probably want to get the most minimum viable product first out, but also it means that it cannot be something crazy complicated or, probably nothing that's going to require a lot of investment in terms of like hardware or something.
Yeah.
I think that might also have some implications on the kind of use cases that we put this technology to use. Because again, if you're talking about a lot of health, like when you talk about chemical sensors and anything to do with chemicals in general, there's a lot of health related features that are available on iPhone and handheld devices like iWatch, etc. So we want to make sure, since the accuracy is not that high, we want to bring something to market very, very fast. It shouldn't be something that influences any life-threatening kind of use cases, or something to do with people's health. Like it can, what I'm saying, like it can make or break.
Like low risk.
Low risk, exactly. Yes, that's the
low risk for user.
Mm-hmm.
Low risk for both, right? For user and business.
Yeah.
Okay, and probably you're thinking also about what I'm hearing Shipra just saying. Hey, maybe something that can take advantage of what exists, right? Maybe reuse as much as possible. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, just mainly, yeah. I think you captured it. It should be low risk, like because the technology is not that refined, and two, because we want to bring something to market. Maybe we want to learn from it and then build on top of it.
Okay, got it. I think those are very good reasons. Okay, great. So now we have our guidance on how we're going to make decisions. So let's go into now thinking about the consumer, and let's think about different use cases. How are you? Let's brainstorm. Okay. So use cases for consumer, right? And maybe we should talk a little bit about the consumer. Definitely. Who would want to use sensors? Should we talk about the use cases or the consumers? Kind of like
first, you set up the persona and then you create the use cases for those personas, right?
Yeah, I know, but in some instances, I'm trying to figure out, in which situation somebody's going to use these sensors. Like I personally would use it for finding about pollution, outside of the house, or maybe finding about mold issues in the house or humidity. Things that can deteriorate, the house or cause me harm, right? But that doesn't categorize me as a particular user, you see?
Right.
That's why I was thinking, maybe it's a combo. What are your thoughts?
So one set of customers would be parents with small children, because if you have small children in the house, you are concerned about the quality of air, and that would be one set of consumers, our customers. So another one would be elderly. Either you have your older parents with you, or you are an elder person, and because they are most sensitive to pollutants in the air. So that would be another one. And since the sensor is not industrial grade, another application, even though it's not inside the house, it would be inside schools where a lot of children are stuck inside rooms, and you want to ensure the air quality is not too bad. And that's an existing problem in many schools. The air conditioning systems are not good and air quality goes down.
So I would say public use. public
Public places. You can say that too. I was just going into more detail, I guess.
I wanted to, a lot of the things that you mentioned here were related to people being concerned about health, right? The air and how healthy it is to be in the space. That's one scenario, right? At the high level, like I wanted to think about this jobs to be done idea, which is the consumer that is going to use these sensors. What is the end goal? They can have several ones. And I want to put that here at this high level. Like, what's the job to be done for them? Can you think of some?
I think one that clearly comes out is safety, right? Or protect yourself. Protect yourself or people around you.
Or improve quality of life.
I think it's peace of mind, right? At the very end, it's the peace of mind. That's all you're buying with it.
Yeah, that's in a nutshell, right? Achieve peace of mind. I like that. It puts an umbrella into what gives peace of mind to each of these users. So what do you guys think about this segmentation?
Sorry. Another thing that I was thinking about is outside of protecting yourself and safety. Another thing that I was thinking about was I think with the whole like self-driving car revolution that's coming up, a lot of chemical companies are coming up with paint that can sense. I think it's like I think like cars can sense the paint on the road so that the navigation is easier. So I guess it's like it's not related to safety or anything. It's slightly different.
How would that apply to chemical sensors on an iPhone?
How would you use the iPhone with the sensors? Yeah.
So like if I have a self-driving car and I'm taking it on the roads, I can put almost like a way I'm thinking about it is having my iPhone in front of my dashboard, and then it can detect the path where basically the iPhone can act as a car navigation system for my car.
And how is this? How are the sensors used? Because the sensors are on the iPhone.
Yeah, I understand. So the chemical. So what I'm saying is that chemical companies are coming up with paint that are, I guess, going to be that can interact with some sort of like self-driving car. And so that change is something that's happening in the industry. And so this iPhone sensor can detect that paint and be able to navigate the car. Does that make sense?
Is it able to detect? I'm sorry. What did you say that you said?
Detect.
What's the word?
Detect as in things like change lanes and stop signs and crossings and things like that.
You're thinking, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where the chemical sensors come into the picture.
So there's chemical on the road in terms of paint for navigation, right? And then this sensor can detect that chemical to be able
But
to.
that's correct. But the sensor will have to be on the tires or something like that, or not sure.
No, I'm almost thinking, it potentially could be in the tires, but here I'm thinking if the iPhone itself has the sensor, maybe it's too out there. I don't want to like derail this conversation.
Well, what I was thinking, Sarania, is that because you're thinking about the solution, I wanted to go first about the problem, right?
Sure.
The use case. So maybe we can express it that way. Maybe we can express it and say, hey, this iPhone, in cars, maybe is able to detect somehow chemicals on the road. Okay, but what is the need? What is the need, right, for the user? Why would from what you're saying driverless cars in the future we'll be able to take some cue from the outside world in order to navigate better. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay. So and so is there a need, if they can do that automatically, what I'm trying to ask myself, is there a need for an extra iPhone, in that situation? So it's a little bit, but good thought, because they're always thinking about, ahead, So let's think about futuristic things like that. Saranya, any other thoughts?
A different way of using these sensors is like you gave the example of bad quality of air due to fires. You can have these sensors, let's say there are multiple fire companies working on the air, on fighting the fires. The air quality is going to be different in different parts of the region. So if, let's say, you have 100 people with these iPhones with these sensors, you can map out the data on the air quality in real time. So if, let's say, every region has an air quality board that publishes its data, but it's usually lagging behind, and it doesn't go into, like, let's say, into my neighborhood. It will be on a city-wide level information. But if you have these sensors on small phones that you can potentially take anywhere with you, you have that much more granular data that you can publish in real time. So let's say if I'm going to Seattle, I can see within Seattle which neighborhood has bad air quality, good air quality, and the relative quality of air. So that's
that is a great
outside the house.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a great idea. The one thing that I want to, and because we all do that, right? We all start thinking about solutions before we actually put the use cases, because it's in our head, right? But I want to put the use case, the need for your solution, okay? Here, so why don't we write it down, right? First of all, are we going to deal with all these users, or do we pick one?
Can I throw in a few more use cases that come to mind? Maybe that will help us determine the segments or the users.
Yeah, let's put the use cases. Let me put the one that Asim said, which is mapping air quality. Like maybe that's not a use case. I put here air quality in real time. For user. Okay. What else?
So what about detecting fires? So there could be fire, there could be some short circuit within the house and, detect fires. It would have a distinct smell that the chemical sensors can be used for, or detect
fire hazard.
Yeah. Gas leakage, again, something that can happen in a house scenario. If you have a gas stove, there could be, scenarios that I've heard in the news. There are cases where there were, explosions and whatnot due to gas leakage. I think that could be one use case.
Fire hazard, it could be gas leakage.
One more, a little vague one, but just sense stale food. Sense stale food. It could be in car, it could be in home, it could be in your office. If you have stale pizza lying somewhere.
Need to, need to get rid of stales or detect stale food.
Yeah, but mostly for refrigerators, so probably I don't know. In the kitchen area, I don't know.
You know what? The other thing would be like, for the police, detect dead bodies.
I actually think that's actually a really good one, because imagine if you can have an app that can tell you which fruits and vegetables are close to going bad, and so using the sensor.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, for groceries, I think it would be valuable. Okay, what
Yes.
else? Come up with more. We need a lot more. Because
Okay,
we have to
detect rodents in your basement.
in animals, right?
Yeah.
What else?
Users with asthma or allergies.
Users with if they are in a bad air area, you know, right? Detect bad air for, you know, asthmatic.
And depending on the capabilities, a breathalyzer would be useful, but I don't think we scope that out as a capability.
It can be, it can come with it, but that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So more, we need more. We need to come up with so many use cases that we're gonna pick one that is gonna be like totally, you know, mind-blowing.
I think detect pesticides contents in vegetables before you buy it.
The what? I'm sorry?
Detect pesticides content
Already.
in vegetables before you buy it.
That's very nice. You know what?
I think health conscious people would love that, or if it is
Food.
really organic or not.
Exactly. That's very good. I love that. I always think,
And
okay,
I think you can expand that to not just vegetables, probably even like food, like
Yeah.
anything you buy from the store.
Put in here food in general, right? Vegetables, fruit. That's a really good one. That's very good. Let's go into more of that.
Maybe you can keep like, did we already talk about pests? Like if you have a garden or something, you're able to keep pests away.
To keep pets away, in what way?
Pest, like
Rodents?
you know, no, yeah, sure, like rodents and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so detect, you know, like detect rodents, or, you know, you could also detect, what are those big animals that like have pointed things? Skunks? Well, you can smell the skunks, okay? You don't need a detector for that, right? All right, what else? So we have people, we go back to these people, right? How about the elderly? Something around the elderly?
Yeah, one use case would be the water quality. It's not specific to elderly, it applies to everybody. Water quality, since it's a chemical sensor. We don't know. Oh, you know what? No, it doesn't apply because you said early on that it's a gas sensor, right? So
Yes.
water quality may not apply.
Yeah. All right, so we have a lot, I suppose, here. Let's,
So another last one, sorry. One thing I was thinking about was if there are, if the sensor can help detect some sort of chemical changes in your body, so like mental health, fertility related applications.
Yeah. Changes in body. You know, something really funny. I think it exists because I've seen it. In Japan, you know how Japanese are super clean, right? And they're really obsessed with cleanliness. There's a device that detects body odor for yourself, you know, so you go take a shower.
Great.
I thought that was really hilarious. All right. You know, which would be a big seller in Japan. Let's say detect detect odor in room and aerify it. I mean, well, I'm talking about solutions now. Bad. But I think we have a lot here. Let's now go into solutions. And mind you, who are we designing for? Because we went through, the users and the use cases. We're mostly designing for, we're designing for everybody, right?
Yes, I would think so.
Not for public needs, but I would say everybody else who is a consumer. And that is okay, right? All right, so let's now start thinking about solutions. First of all, we need to pick a use case that is going to be really, is going to be something that the VC wants. I want to take a picture of this. All right.
Well, since the VC wants a return on their investment, so I would think that the biggest customer segment that we can create the solution for, that would give the best return on their investment in the least amount of time. So the more niche the use case would be, the longer it will take to get the return on investment.
So let's prioritize. Let's prioritize based on what you just said. What's our criteria?
Maybe we could do impact versus effort.
Yeah, and let's specify the impact, right? But I think that this also has to be guided. So the effort has to be with the complexity we mentioned here, has to be reduced, right? To get to market quickly. The impact, how are we going to measure the impact in terms of the size of the market?
Yeah, I think was it Asim who said that it was like less niche, more applicable to other people.
Okay, size of market, right? I would also think in terms of frequency of use, but I'm not sure. Let's just go with size of market and complexity. Okay, air quality information in real time. And let's do, I'm going to put this as, this is going to be impact and this is going to be effort. So we have like a ratio, right? So how about this? Air quality, need information on air quality in real time. And very accurately, right? I mean, the idea that John, I think, John, was it you? That you mentioned about, mapping. Do you think that's high impact?
I think the air quality in I don't know about real time, but air quality is like table stakes. If we are going to go with that, that's a given. You have to have. That's like in an MVP product, you need to have that for a gas sensor.
Yeah. So in terms of impact, we already know the air quality, right? We can go to websites and look at that. I think at least for the fires.
Right. Oh, so this is air quality outside of a structure, or is this inside of a structure? Because air quality.
That's a good point.
I think it's inside of a structure.
Then
I think will be more applicable.
Correct.
And all right. So when I think about this, let's think about whether you would use it, or do we see that need today from people?
Yes, and there is I don't know if we are at the stage of talking about other products that do that, but Nest has the smoke sensors. They do check for ppms, particulates per million. They do check for smoke, and so there is a need for that to answer your question.
Yeah, and I think also your home or rent insurance goes down, right? If you have like a carbon monoxide detector and things like that at home. A lot of people don't have it, but
yeah. Okay, got it. So I think this this is high impact. In terms of effort, I always have this situation where like, hey, these are use cases. I really don't know how much effort it's going to take. Not yet, until I talk about the solution. What are your thoughts on that? Because do we know how complex this is going to be?
I think the complexity is going to be in the software, because the chemical, if we are going to take the initial statement, building an iPhone with chemical sense, if you have iPhone with chemical sensors, so we already have chemical sensors connected to iPhone somehow, so that hardware part is taken care of in my mind. That leaves the software.
You know, yeah, but because we don't know the solution, this is just a use case, right? So we don't know the solution because, for example, what John mentioned is everybody basically is with these phones, and you know, you can have an application that maps all these points in the application. That's one idea, right? But there could be another. So I don't know. I'm always hesitant to put here complexity, because how would you know unless you actually throw out an actual idea for a solution? How do you guys look at that?
I'm looking at all the other solutions, and compared to, like, let's say finding dead animals or finding stale food, this is actually easier, complexity wise. Air quality is pretty well defined. How many parts per ppm above or below is considered a good or bad or moderate air quality. It's very well defined.
How are you going to map that inside a structure, right? You have to have either people going around in different parts of the building, or you have to have sort of like you know, of these smart sensors everywhere, which changes the product because it's not an iPhone anymore. You see what I'm saying?
It would be the similar way that most in-house air conditioning systems are. They don't have 20 different sensors all over the house. Usually there's one main sensor, and that kind of determines the temperature. Or if you have air quality sensors, they're not distributed all over inside a structure.
About the iPhone with the sensor, right? That's the premise. You have to have. So for me, it's more like a mobile type of solution you place, right?
Yeah, I feel that a number of use cases that we have here require exactly the same solution. They all take air as the input, right? And then from that air input that the sensor is getting, it's producing some kind of assessment or alert, right? So the air.
Well, I don't think so. Like, for example, here, the one that John mentioned, that's a very different solution. Here I can say, hey, I'm really you know, if everybody uses their iPhone and they have this application on, you know, I can have a map, you know, inside the building. I don't know, maybe it's an office inside the company of the air. But it will only be useful as long as people are moving around and have this application on. That is very different than this. You know,
I think what Shipra is saying is all of these use cases are using the same way of the sensors have to have air through them. So that's the only way that the sensors are working. Now it would be either the users are moving or they are not moving, or they are looking at humans or they are looking at food. But the way that the product works is air being moving over the sensors. That's what she's saying, right, Shipra?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So the general idea is the same. There's a sensor that it's working on the air, you know, in the atmosphere around you, and and the sensor is doing its job, right? It's detecting all of these different kinds of odors or smells or you know, chemical composition of the air, and then it's producing you know, some results based on that assessment. So I'm not saying not every single use case, but majority of use cases can be served through this one feature, however we develop it.
Okay. All right. So let's go through let's go through this, even though I don't agree about having an idea of the complexity unless I know what I'm building. But let's see what you say. Okay, so this is high and low complexity. How about this one? Need to detect fire hazard in gas leakage. That seems like, is that a high impact or medium impact? Because today you already have like the detectors in houses, right?
Yeah, fire detectors.
So maybe this is low. What do you guys think?
Actually, this number 2 use case actually merges into number 1, because the way that this would detect a fire, let's say if you have a fire, you have a lot of smoke, which means your air quality is bad. So number 1 is actually doing number 2 by default. Your air quality, it's not detecting the temperature. It's not the temperature sensor, it's a chemical sensor. So number 1 is doing number 2's job by default.
Okay, so let's put this together. How about the detect stale food in groceries?
I think the impact is high, but then I think the effort is going to be pretty high, medium to high too, right?
Yeah, because nobody
Why?
has that.
Because
But it also depends on, I don't want to, considering that we don't know exactly what kind of chemical sensor is, it's safer to say high complexity.
I was gonna say it's low impact because you can, like, the alternative is just to smell it, right? So like, why would I buy this if I can just smell my food?
well, I want this can be used in an industrial setting, but that wouldn't be for consumer. But right.
No, I think it's like things like someone says something is organic. Is it truly organic? Did it actually use any pesticides or artificial fertilizers? I think that's not something you can smell and tell, right?
Yeah, I think that we put that here, which I think I find high. It's definitely high. You know, I see. Let's put it low because you just need an app that shows you things. Detect stale food. Maybe that's low, right? Maybe for just a single person. How about detect dead animals? Low impact, right? Detect bar air for asthmatic people.
It's high impact.
That's high impact, small market, right? So how do we determine that? This is me.
It depends on one thing we didn't talk about is which geographical area are we targeting. So if it's Western countries, the asthmatic, the rate of asthma patients is, the percentage of asthma patients is much higher compared to non-Western countries, just because of the way that we live inside structures and we don't move out as much. So it depends.
Yeah, it depends. Okay. Let's say that is for the US. Most likely the VC in the US. So
I would say medium. It's not low, but it's not high either, so it's medium. That's my opinion.
I think if you include allergy sufferers in that group, that could be high because there's a huge market for allergy medicine.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, you can use the same thing, I assume.
So you think it's high?
If you include the allergy groups, then yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Okay. How about, I think this is, detecting pesticides on your food. I would buy that in a second. Detect rodents. Don't know, probably this is low, right? Detect chemical changes in body. That could be really important if it detects, something that is life-threatening. But I don't have enough information in this area as to what can be detected. So let me leave that out. What do you guys think?
I'd imagine that would be a high effort as well, depending on the concentration, what type of chemical changes. I know there are some jobs that can smell cancer, but how do you I guess automate that?
Yeah, it would require high accuracy probably, right?
Definitely not a consumer product.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so let's go with, we're gonna go then with 1. So we have, we're gonna put the winners here. We have 1, we have the one for the asthmatic people, 5. We have detect pesticides, and that's about it. So, so this is for the pesticides. This is asthmatics, and as well as, you know, the people that have allergies. And the first one is air quality. Okay, fine. So now we need to come up with solutions. So this is the innovative solutions. So remember, this is the iPhone with chemical sensors. Let's pick one. Which use case do you want to pick?
Air quality.
Air quality. Okay. Votes. Any other one?
I would say let's either pick 5 or 6 because I think they are somewhat different, right? Like they are some newer, interesting use cases. So it'll be interesting to try and solve for those.
Yeah, me too. I'm more leaning towards that because there's probably less competition.
Yeah.
In that space.
Yeah, like there isn't probably any product in the market today. At least I don't know of anything like number 6. I think that's a really cool use case. 5 has a lot of applicability. I'm sure there are products to help detect that, but it'll be really awesome to bring that technology to iPhone and, you know, bring it to mass market on a smartphone. So that's what is interesting about
Yeah,
it.
I would agree with 5 because like I have a lot of bad allergies and I would pay a lot to get something that can tell me if I'm gonna be like getting allergies now if I should be taking my meds. So there's like a huge like need I would, but I don't know how big the market is.
Okay, so I think we are between 5 and 6. Okay, we have to vote. People that want 5. Tell me.
Yes.
Yep.
5.
B. Okay. People that want 6.
I'll vote for 6.
Yes, me too.
I would go for 6.
All right. So what do we do? What do we do? Should the girls win or the boys?
I think Ruturaj didn't speak, right?
5.
Yeah.
Done.
Yep.
Oh my God. I was for this because that seemed like fun, you know, like I would totally buy it. Because I hate to pay extra money if they're like deceiving me that it's organic. Okay, so let's go with 5 then. Sorry, girls. Okay, solutions. Brainstorm here. So let's think of techniques to brainstorm. Detect bad air for asthmatic people, right? So how can we brainstorm here? So once you detect air for asthmatic people, you know, what do asthmatic people do when there's bad air? Do they go away or do they need their breathalyzers? What is it that they need?
Either breath analyze, either that or they take, you can take tablets. You can do, if you're taking over the counter, you can use sprays like Flonase.
Okay, so let's think of the situation, right? Of a person that has allergies or whatever. You're with your mobile phone, right? And you don't want to get an attack. Okay, so you need to be warned. You know, some warnings, right? What do you guys say? Like there's a warning time, maybe? You know, maybe, and then there's a, you know, recommendation, I don't know, warning, look.
Well, you need to give warning, and then what kind of warning, right? So is it pollen, especially for somebody with asthma or allergies, you need to know what kind of warning, right? Because
You need okay, so go to the warning. You need to know what type. Then what else happens?
and severity. Like let's say it's a lot of pollens in the air, or is it medium, moderate, high? What's the severity?
What else? Severity, then what to do, right?
And I think it can, if it can detect some sort of like based on previous times that you've used this app or whatever, if it can learn and be like, hey, around this time last year it was pretty heavy, so just something to think about.
So machine learning to predict, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it tells you what type, it tells you the severity, and then what to do, right?
Yeah.
Or do you know what to do?
I think
it's obvious what you do. You basically take your meds.
It's obvious what to do. Maybe, yeah, okay. So let's think about, a solution for this. Maybe it's an app, right? Can we wireframe what happens here?
yeah, there should be like a pop-up that should appear with even on a lock screen. A warning pop-up should come
Actually,
up.
what I think it should be color, something that tells you right away, because you're not going to be looking at your phone. It has to actually turn into something, I would say. Maybe this image turns red.
You can send a push notification to your device. That way it shows up on your home screen right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's one way of alerting the user. So based on however you have defined your preferences or your settings in the app, if that condition is reached, then the app immediately sends out a push notification.
Yeah, the thing is that with notifications, you have to read the notification, right?
Yeah, so have a audio component also, some kind of preset noise or
with alarm.
Yeah, you can add audio to push notifications.
Okay.
Right. But have it like default, because initially at least most people don't go in and change the settings. So have it as a default value so that the users don't have to do too much tinkering to get the benefit out of the app.
That sounds good. So now we go into what type, right? What type it is. How are we going to show this? What different types of bad air situations could it be for the...
The first one that I mentioned was the pollen, because a lot of people have allergy to pollen. Could be smoke particles, could be... how
are we going to show it in a fun way? Not in a fun way, because the person probably is like not having, that person probably is nervous, right? So we have to show him some image that calms him down, but at the same time tells him what kind of situation it is, right?
I feel that it should be some sort of a dashboard with as little but as to the point information that is needed, right? Like we don't want a lot of information on this page to begin with, because that's just going to confuse the user, right? Maybe they are already under.
So maybe I show you here. Maybe you show the person there.
Maybe not even numbers. Maybe we pictorially depict like there's a green or red or yellow or some indicator, visual indicator to tell them that,
all these we put a radius.
Yeah, exactly.
Of this person.
Yeah.
That they need to get out of there.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is like the user can specify. So like some people have more allergy towards pollen. Some people have more allergy towards dust. So I think one of the things that the user can specify in their profile or whatever while they're setting up the app is what is it that they want to be notified about more, or like where do their severity lie. And another idea for the indication could be like, how your battery shows
Mhm.
like how much percent you have.
Yeah, right.
Maybe something like that, but showing like almost like a thermometer kind of a.
Yeah, so maybe here you show, yeah, like the thermometer. You're right. Something that goes with lines here. Sorry, I'm not a good drawer, but I see what you're saying. How do you draw a thermometer? You need to learn that. Like this with lines. Anyways, yeah, so you can show this. Maybe it shows you where you are, and then the area around it, and then you're indicated by the colors.
I have a question about the area. So if the user moves around, does it update the status of the pollens in real time? Right?
Yeah.
Once
Yes.
once you are warned that there is a hazard here, if you move around with your app open, it should update the status in real time so you know that you are out of the danger zone, so to say.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? So it shows you, and then you can walk around and get out of there, right, into another space.
It'll be cool if it can be as an add-in on Google Maps, I think. Like, especially if you're walking around.
Very good idea. Google Maps. Although, yeah, okay. So that's a good thing for Google. I don't know for the VC, but okay. So and then basically as you go on, this disappears, and then everything's normal. I like the idea. Definitely, machine learning. Will basically learn what environments you're more sensitive to. Detect environment sensitivity. Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, I think you can feed into the app kind of like indication. So a lot of times the allergies kind of go away or reduce over time, not go away, maybe reduce over time. So maybe you can say that you can feed the app some sort of information that will make the machine learning better.
I just realized I'm late for a meeting. 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Sarania, what are you saying again? Can you repeat?
Yeah, I was just saying maybe we could. Another thing is like how we can, like, what are the inputs we can take from the user to improve the insights better, especially with machine learning, right? So like,
Yeah.
hey, maybe I'm not sure if it applies here, but like, these are all the symptoms that I started feeling before this period, or like around this area.
Yeah, that definitely is very interesting, right? Because then you can also bring that to your doctor.
Actually, I was
Cool.
thinking, should we also have an option of sharing, like
Mhm.
being able to call the doctor or share the symptoms that you are experiencing, or the fact that you were exposed to this much quantity of pollen, etc. Sorry, I don't have much knowledge in that area, but something of that sort to be shared with others who should, like, especially in case of kids, right? Like if they're moving around in the school, maybe as parents you want to know, or you want to keep the doctor informed about it. So share the results with somebody else.
Maybe you have the share button here somewhere, or you have the share button here. Anyways, okay. What I wanted to quickly wrap up here is, how do you go to market with this quickly? GTM.
So quickly, we need to see what the launch goals are.
Yeah, the launch, yeah, launch goals is launch quickly, and yeah, so that's true. What are the launch goals? What do you think the launch goal should be, to do it massively or to small, quantity of people? I would do a test launch.
Yes, ideally it should be test, and because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So test, launch, see how the response is, and then iterate and modulate, change the product if it needs to, and then do the mass launch.
How are we going to reach our customers? Where are the people with asthma?
Asthma, if I remember correctly, usually it's more concentrated in urban locations and not so much in the rural areas, because people are out and about. They are not hunkered down in rooms. So urban areas.
Where can we find them? Like, do they go to specific websites? Do we reach them at the hospitals?
Got it.
Right? So I would say maybe at hospitals, maybe we reach doctors, right? And use the doctors to recommend this to the patients.
I have a question regarding GTM. Should we apply a framework when we are covering GTM? Like, should we do the 4 Ps and things like that here? So we discuss,
It's in my head, right? So what I
do it right behind that, like.
Yeah. So I start with what Asim said. What's the goal of the launch, first of all? And then once you know that you can constrain it, is it going to be like massively, or you want to constrain it, do a test first or not? And then the next thing is like, okay, how am I going to let these people know about this product, right? Where are they? Which are the channels, right? How am I going to reach them? And then once I know where they are, what are those moments where they may be making a decision about or considering this, right? Can I capture them in those moments, right? So, for example, for hospital doctors, I'm thinking in terms of pharmacies also, right? When they go to the pharmacy. All right, so now what kinds of like advertisement or mechanisms are you going to use to reach them, right? Your channels.
Yeah. There's also direct to customers, because it's an iPhone. As iPhone, we can market it directly to customers also.
Maybe Apple Store.
Direct to consumer, sorry.
The Apple Store, right? But now we start thinking, okay, so now are we going to do SEO, organic? Do they actually search? They probably do, right? So we should do SEM too. Do we actually, do display ads on pages that are about asthma? So there are all these considerations.
Right.
What I would do is to test each channel appropriately, and just like put more money in the ones that gives you the best ROI. Yeah, wanted to get that idea out there because they might ask you that at the end, right? And I think another question that they would for sure ask is, what's the size of this market? And we can do that in another session. But I think we went over time. Okay, guys, I think this was a great session. And mind you, usually they will ask you this and you go back and forth, but they are fast, maybe in like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. That's why it's so challenging.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know.
Bye, guys.